Hello and welcome to TNCRadio.live. This is Keep On Talkin' with your host, Tom Kirk. Tom is an over-the-road driver with over 2 million safe miles. On this show, he interviews the people who help make the trucking world happen. It's real life, live from the road.
This episode of Keep On Talkin' is part 2 of a great interview with a person who goes by the name of Uncle Pete. He tells Tom some great stories, like the time Dolly Parton came to visit, a story about Charlie Pride, and a short venture into Uncle Pete's perspectives, as well as his views about politicians and business.
So, Uncle Pete, we've talked about a lot of different things here. It sounds like your business has become quite the family affair. You know, we talked a little bit about how some of these truck stops that have been around for ages, you know, whether there's some of the ones out in Kansas or Virginia or across I-40, you know, are no longer with us. What do you think that has made you so successful, at least so far, in staying around? And it also sounds like you have a fair amount of family support as well. Do you think that maybe is the difference?
The old adage in business, location. Oh yeah, location.
Yep.
We're in a designated-driven location in front of a big industrial park, so we get a lot of trucks coming in. We have a huge dog food and pet food plant. We have a Nashville frozen foods is relocated here, so we have got that as our advantage. And we're just far enough out of Nashville for drivers to get their load, get out of Nashville, get out of the traffic, and pull off and get them a bite to eat or fill up. So it's just a really good thing. And then we think our other draw is our employees. People come in and come back because of the way you treated them. And I tell my employees, treat everybody like a niece or a nephew. You know, you want them to come back, and these girls do it. I mean, they do. They're always polite. Even if you make them mad, they'll be polite in the way they talk to you.
Yep.
But
bless your heart.
Yeah, sweetheart. I know your wife is glad you're out and trucking.
Yes. Yeah, and you've got a great cast of characters from over the years. And I assume you've had a bunch of characters visit, both truck drivers and not. Are there some of the stories or people like that just jump out at your mind when you think back at some of them from over the years?
You ever heard of a bluegrass singer, Jimmy Martin?
Yes, I have. Jimmy
Martin and Tater used to come up here and go hunting. And Jimmy Martin at that point had been kicked off of the Grand Ole Opry by Ralph Emery because he was drunk and because he was loud and obnoxious. But him and Tater were long friends, had been friends for years. And they started coming up here and eating breakfast and going hunting or going and run the dog. Martin even wrote a song, Run, Pete, Run. It's people like that. It's people like some of the country music ladies have stopped here. Dolly Parton came in here one snowy night and ate, and the only thing she asked, she said, just let me eat, I'm starving to death, and then I'll sign all the autographs they want. Well, we did. We put her in the corner, and she ate more than most men would eat, and I'm not sure where she put it. I checked to make sure she wasn't toting it out, but then she signed autographs and ran out. She said, honey, I'll send you one back from me special. So in 24 karat gold, I have a signed autograph to my Uncle Pete from Dolly Parton. And, you know, it's that type of thing. It's drivers that come in who play the accordion, or drivers. We had one that used to come in, and we made him sit outside and play, but he played the pipe organ. And he wore a dress or a skirt or a kilt, he called it.
Kilt. Oh, so yeah. Was it a pipe organ or was it bagpipes?
It was bagpipes. We've had some of the best bluegrass pickers and guitar players come in and just sit in the back and have a good time. Charlie Daniels gave the last fiddle given out to the veterans. I picked it up 3 days before he passed away. You know, and you talking about somebody that liked veterans, he was a godsend for us. He helped through and stuff.
And he was also, I don't think people realized that Charlie Daniels, as so many other country artists, had a deep passion for veterans and for truck drivers as well.
Oh yes, yes. When he would come by, they literally would bring a box of pictures, and they were pre-signed, but he would personalize them for the drivers, and he would stay here. And of course, you'd get out on CB radio. Charlie Daniels is Uncle Pete's eating lunch. Well, I hold 125. I'd have 175 parked.
Yep.
But he wouldn't leave until everybody got one. He just wouldn't. And he'd shake the hand, pat him on the back, thank him. And if you were a veteran truck driver, oh Lord, he was all over you. You know, and that's the kind of things that we had. Brooks and Dunn gave me the shirt off his back. I got it hanging in here. And that's what I like. All of these guys didn't have to come in here. All these guys didn't have to sit, but they did because drivers haul America. There ain't a thing you eat, drink, wear, or anything else that ain't been on the truck. And, you know, and I told one lady, she was fussing about some truck driver cutting her off, and I said, where were you passing him on, ma'am? Well, I tried to get around him on the right-hand side before he got turned into that lane. And I said, you ever think he might not have seen you? I said, what are you driving, a pickup truck or a tractor trailer? I'm driving that Volkswagen. I said, ma'am, all he would have felt was a thump.
Barely.
Well, he didn't hit me. I hit the brakes and let him go on by. I said, never pass a truck driver on the right side.
Yeah.
Well, what if he won't get over? I said, then you stay in behind him, and if you can't see his face in the mirror, don't go. Because if you can't see him, he can't see you.
That is so true.
Yeah, and I think every driver's license test in the United States needs to have 10 questions on what do you do when you get around a tractor trailer. I think that needs to be a law because there's more trucks out there than drivers a lot of times, and 9 times out of 10, and people are going to fuss at me, a wreck involving a truck and a car is the car's fault. Of course,
I can't argue with you.
These highfalutin insurance coffin seekers, these high-priced lawyers that get on there and advertise, if you were involved in an accident with a driver that driving the truck, it probably was his fault, and call 1-800-KISS-MY-TOOTIE, and I'll get you money. I think that's another thing. We have more lawsuits right now than we've ever had in our history because lawyers can advertise.
Yep.
You know, the devil advertises. You know, I get upset, needless to say, ads promoting suing truckers.
I can't agree with you more on that one because, you know, and occasionally you do see a bad actor, and there's been some of those in the news recently. But more often than not, the average driver is doing his job or what he or she should do, and somebody else causes it. And like you said, the lawyers get involved, and now suddenly that driver is public enemy number one. You know, it's like at the beginning of the pandemic, drivers were considered heroes, essential workers, all this other stuff. Then once everybody got their toilet paper back, truckers who?
Yeah, yep. And, you know, and because I think that goes for anything. You know, I saw an ad this morning. If you used Roundup spray 35 years ago and you had non-lethal Hodgkin's Call us today. We can get you a settlement. You know, and there is times that people need to be sued. You know, when they put Agent Orange out and killed every monkey, snake, and lizard in a 5-mile stretch, and even today, third generation of people born in Vietnam have problems. Second and third generations of Vietnam vets who died from Agent Orange, their children are having problems. A company like that needs to be sued, especially when you find out that, oh, we knew this would cause these, but we figured they were only going to spray it there. That's the reason there's 12 C-130s in the desert, a mile from everything else, because they can't even take the motors off of them. They're contaminated. So it's sometimes we're our own worst enemy when it comes to warfare.
Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry, our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
You're listening to TNCRadio.live. This is Keep On Talking with your host, Tom Kirk.
Sometimes we're our own worst enemy when it comes to warfare.
I think that's true. I remember growing up as a kid, we went to Antietam once, and we had visited, a few different Civil War battlefields. And they had a video in there, and my dad, he had me when he was in his mid to late 60s. And he was a minister, and he'd seen quite a few things over the years. And during this movie or film about the history of the battle, I was finding it interesting, but it bothered him so much, we had to leave before it was there. And, one of the park rangers was saying, yeah, this film is so, I guess, dramatic is maybe the word I'm looking for. Graphic, dramatic as to the history and the cost of those battles there at Antietam. That's not unusual to see people walk out. We have 2 or 3 we show, and this is the one we tend to get most, if not all, the walkouts on. And my dad just says, before we send anybody to war, politicians, any country, they should make them sit down and watch that movie. I don't know if it would have any impact with as cold-hearted as some of those politicians are. But that said, maybe that needs to be done more. Maybe before anybody sends anybody off to war, they need to sit down with people like you who've been there and know what some of it is about, so they realize the cost.
The Romans required all of their generals and senators that if they started a war, their children and grandchildren had to go. I think the United States needs a law stopping all of the people that got out of going into the military for some trumped-up medical deal. I think every one of their children need to have compensatory service during the war that their parents put us into, and even their grandchildren, if they're old enough to serve. And I also believe that we need to bring the draft back for 2 years. And if you don't want to be in the military, that's fine. Send you to a federal park. Send you doing good things for the United States for 2 years. I think it would do away with a lot of gangs and a lot of drugs and a lot of other things. It would get people getting to know who their neighbor is.
Yeah.
One of the best things that happened to me at 17 years old, I went to basic training in Fort Polk, Louisiana, with a C company, and it had 52 different nationalities in our company. I got to know them. I've kept up with some of them, and everybody's the same. I heard a comment one day in reference to a court martial. They were trying to accuse this person of being prejudiced, and he said, why am I prejudiced? All I see is green and red blood. And the president of the court-martial board said, point well taken. We will not enter anything in that he was prejudiced against these soldiers. They wear green and they bleed red. And that's, and to me, that's it in a nutshell, But the only way we're going to accomplish this is through contact. And the schools are not the place to do the contact. I think it needs to be some type of compulsory service where get some of the meanness out of some of them, get some of the good out of some of them, and let them go out and do something for somebody else.
Well, if you go back to what was it, the late 30s, early 40s with the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps, my mother's second husband was a part of that, and that was an era that was very dark, and the unemployment was so high, people were starving. But a lot of them came out with skills, usefulness, whether it was for beyond World War II, in World War II. I think they had an appreciation for hard work. And while I understand a lot of parents maybe wouldn't want their kids to experience some of the things that they had to go through, some of the difficulties, the pendulums went so far in the other direction, it's went too far.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid and in school, a teacher could give a paddling.
Yep.
Now you got to go through a counselor, then you got to go through group counseling, and then family counseling, and then the teacher has to be involved. And by then, they graduated last year, didn't they?
Yep.
And that's wrong. The only thing I asked the teacher when I got a spanking, don't tell my dad.
Because then you get to.
Whack away. I'll lean over the desk. I got a third grade teacher. I got to tell you this. When she retired, I went to her retirement, and I was the guest speaker. And I talked about how teachers change kids, and I put on different jackets, and I went all the way through that. We gave her and another teacher, Miss Prater and Miss Ball, a crystal apple on a little pedestal. And she gave me something that I cherish more than any book except the Bible in my life. 101 Reasons Why I Do Not Have My Homework by Pete Norman. A footnote to the book was, if you have a reason that is not in this book, you get an A+. If it's in this book, you get a 0. One person added something, because originally the book was 100 Reasons Why I Do Not Have My Homework.
I have to ask, what was the 101st reason?
I read this book the other night and didn't get my homework.
Okay.
And Miss Prater said, I just loved that one. I never would have thought of that. And she added it in, and the boy's name is Carter something. I remember the Carter, and he was the 101 Reason. But she gave that book out to each one. It's just a paperback. She gave it to each of her third grade kids when they came into class. You get this. If the reason is in that book, don't come to class and tell me. And I thought, I'd like to meet that kid.
I have a feeling he might like meeting you too. So
I think he's a politician now, but I'm not sure.
I mean, we've covered a lot of ground. Is there any more stories you'd like to share, or maybe some words of wisdom, whether it's to small business owners, truck drivers, motorists out there, you kind of like to share with people?
Well, a couple of things. One, for the traveling public, a truck stop is probably the safest place you can be on the interstate. We're dedicated as a Zone 1 safe haven. Truck drivers will protect you. I've seen them step into arguments between a husband and a wife, and I've seen truck drivers literally stepped right in front of the guy and said, calm down right now. And I've seen them break things up. I've seen them break up kids. I've seen cars come off the interstate with two guys screaming and cussing and ranting and raving about this guy did that and that guy. And the drivers, if I go out there, they'll go with me. They'll go with me. They have my back and I have theirs. And that being said, if you're out driving and you have any kind of problems, don't hesitate to stop at a truck stop. And the more mom and pop it is, the more they're going to do for you. We have a slush fund to feed people. We have a slush fund to buy gas or help with a blown out tire for people. And some of them give them back to us. Some of them send me $100 back for $10 worth of gas or a spare tire or something. And like I tell them, you don't have to send it back, just pay it forward. That's what we're doing. And and the trucks that you get upset at, don't get upset at them, because they're husbands and wives and aunts and uncles just like you are. And, and you've got people from all over the world driving trucks here in the United States, and we still don't have enough truck drivers. Loads are still delayed. Loads are still postponed because nobody to haul it. So think about that the next time you go in Walmart and they just had a run on toilet paper because it's snowing, and you think, well, how are they going to get another load in here on a truck in the snow?
I can't agree more with that. And a lot of times, if people wouldn't panic buy to the rate they do, would help a lot of these.
TNCRadio.live is proud to carry the Steve Summers Overnight Drive Show. TNCRadio.live is dedicated to commercial drivers. We offer the news, traffic, and weather you need, and the entertainment, sports, talk, music, and celebrity interviews you want to hear 24/7. We have original shows and trucker podcasts that feature some of your favorites, like Ice Road Alex Debogorski and America's Truckin' Sweetheart Marcia Campbell. TNCRadio.live is convenient and designed for professional drivers. The best part is we're free, and you can listen anywhere you are on the road. With just one tap, you can tune into Steve Summers and us right on your phone. Simply download our app by going to app.tncradio.live. That's app.tncradio.live.
You're listening to TNCRadio.live. This is Keep On Talking with your host, Tom Kirk.
We can argue all day if there really is a truck driver shortage or not. I think a lot of it is logistical challenges, and some of it is caused by people buying, how shall we say, ignorantly, buying 6 when just 1 or 2 would be more than enough to get them through the next couple of weeks, which causes problems for everybody, and it just is the snowballing effect. But there's also a lot of times where you see, places only ship 1 pallet, and they just as easily could have figured out ways to put multiple loads on that truck instead of just 1 pallet.
Yeah. Yes. I had some truck drivers in there one day, and one guy said, we fuss about hoarders. I go home and we got enough toilet paper and paper towels till sometime in 24. And I said, what? He said, I think she bought a shed to put all the hoarded paper in. Welcome to the crowd.
Yeah, well, and I think sometimes, and I won't say always in the case of truck drivers too, is we know where we can go to get things at a good rate or a good price. So, we might stock up a little bit, but in some cases it's that scratch and dent stuff that a lot of other people are going, well, I'd never want that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got a big carton of paper towels that's a little damaged. 1 or 2 of them, the plastic's done fine. You throw them out or use them for shop towels, but the rest of it's perfectly fine.
We have truck drivers that'll go to deliver over here at the Nashville Frozen Foods, and there'll be a box torn or a box busted, and they won't take it.
Yep.
Well, the drivers will bring it back over here to me, and then we take it, rebag it, and give it to Joseph's Storehouse or give it to one of the churches, or we have a couple of veteran and shelters for women, and pass it on, and it doesn't cost them anything. And this is the things that I love about my drivers. So I tell people, the next time you're in a truck stop or you're somewhere and there's drivers coming in and out, do like we do with the military. Thank you for driving for me. Thank you for feeding me.
And I've had that. I'm exaggerating slightly, but I can almost count on one hand the number of times something like that has ever happened to me.
And we're a country that if somebody's got anything on militarily, they'll get, in my truck stop, a dozen thank you for your service.
Yep.
Well, I believe, and I tell my drivers, hey, man, be careful out there. You're hauling food for me. Remember that.
Yep.
And that, that's a comical way of saying thank you. But I also tell them, hey, and we've had to close early before because of snow and getting people home, and we'll make to-go meals and just give them to the drivers. Hey, buddy, just take this back to your truck. We're closing, but here's something you need. And they said, why do you do that? I said, because you need something to eat. You need it just like I do.
And that's one of the things that a lot of us have noticed during the pandemic, particularly in my situation, where we run teams. So a lot of times, we're running 20, 24 hours a day. If you're the night driver, good luck anymore finding places that allegedly serve food, for long periods of 24 hours, that serves food much past 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night if it's not fast food. Places that traditionally were very reliable, 24 hours a day or even till midnight, 1 a.m., they're not. And I understand not every truck stops can be open 24/7. I understand that not every truck stop can have their restaurant open 24/7. But you would even think that having like a grab-and-go sandwich selection where the food looked edible instead of like leftover dog food from 3 weeks ago, they'd be able to do things like that. And some of the truck stops, whether it was the individual managers of chains or some of them, did step up during the pandemic. But one of the things I noticed, a few friends of mine says, I stopped by Uncle Pete's for the first time in a while here, and it says, I went inside and got 2 or 3 sandwiches to go. I got far better food and paid far less money than I would at any national chain.
Yep. All of our sandwiches we make ourselves. We don't have that prepackaged with steroids in it so it doesn't turn green on you. And we have a use by date on every sandwich we make. And along with that, we package our own soups and we package that stuff for people too. And economically, we can't afford to have a third shift because of the new rules in driving where a driver can only drive so long. And you were talking about a tag team. There's not many of those out anymore because they don't have the drivers, so they put one driver in one truck.
And, there's still, when we look out overnight, there's still, compared to what there once was, no, it's not the same. There's still a reasonable amount there, but the funny thing is at a certain point as you're going through the truck stops, you start seeing some of the same faces in the middle of the night, and you start kind of figuring, okay, he drives for this company, and it's kind of interesting at a certain point where you start realizing, oh, wait, we know each other in the sense that we know we drive nights.
Yep. We've got some husband and wife teams and when we know they're coming, they'll call us and say, hey, I'm still an hour out, and our restaurant takes the last order. We close at 11, so they take the last order at 10 to give the cooks time to clean everything and prep for the next day. But they'll call us and we'll do a to-go order and put it in a warmer.
Yep.
And we've done that numerous times. So anybody out there that's listening to that, if you call the truck stop or go online and call the truck stop at 9 o'clock and say, look, I'm going to get in there before 11. Can you fix me this, this, and this? They'll fix it and put it in the warm box. All you got to do is come in, and the register doesn't close until 11. So if you come in there at 5 to 11, they'll go back there and get it and hand it to you, and you pay the register. So, we do things like that trying to, again, help. And then we always tell them, hey, we've got fresh made chicken salad, tuna salad, ham, turkey, and a quarter-inch bologna and stuff like that we slice all of it ourselves. We make all of it ourselves. It doesn't come out of a bucket. It comes out of the tuna comes out of a can, and the chicken comes out fresh.
Yep.
We cook the chicken, then chop him up. So,
And that's definitely the best way to know where your chicken salad came from. So, Uncle Pete, if somebody would like to maybe learn a little bit more about you, find you, your hours, how would they go about doing that?
Oh, we're on 2 or 3 different mediums. Tara can tell you all of them, but I know we're on Facebook, or you can just Google Uncle Pete's Truck Stop Lebanon, and we pop up. And it'll give you the menu, and it'll give you all that, and it'll give you phone numbers and the restaurant phone numbers. So you can push that button, and it'll call. So we're on all the different things. And again, I'm 75, so I don't know all of them, but my grandkids have got us on different mediums. So we're not hard to get a hold of.
Looking forward, you just mentioned you're 75, and obviously things can change. Is this a business that you hope stays around for at least the next couple of generations? And if you feel comfortable, what do you think the likelihood of that may be?
Well, that is not – I know one generation because she's running it, but my grandson is a manager for YMCA. I got a granddaughter that's in pre-med. I got another granddaughter that's in another program. She might come on board with us when her son gets into school. She does part-time work for us now. So yes and no. I've got 2 granddaughters that live in California, and they're probably not going to come out here to go to work. But could, and you never know.
Well, with the way cost of living in California is getting.
Well, that's what I told your mother. I said, sell your $250,000 Tennessee valued house for $1.6 million and come out here and buy you something. We're getting a lot. One of my part-time cooks, her whole family moved here from California, and she's a senior at Watertown High School, and she's my Saturday and Sunday morning cook. And she's into aviation, and she'll be going on to college, but she'll work for me some more, and that's what I like. I like to hire local.
Great leaders challenge their people not to stop at the first right answer. Tighten the Lug Nuts is the book that will help you move past that first right answer to be more effective, more productive, and more successful. This book serves as a blueprint that can be easily applied by leaders, entrepreneurs, truckers, owner-operators, all of us in our everyday lives. This is one of the best leadership books you can read to help you accelerate towards your personal and professional goals. Plus, a portion of the proceeds will be donated to truckerschristmasgroup.org. Visit TightenTheLugNuts.com to order your copy today.
You're listening to TNCRadio.live. This is Keep on Talking with your host, Tom Kirk.
That's what I like. I like to hire local if I can find them. But I like to find people. I've got one guy that opens up every morning, Les. He gets up about 3 o'clock in the morning with the chickens. I think he goes out there and kicks one of them off the nest, make him crow. And then his daughter and granddaughter both work here. So we try to stay as much family oriented as we can, and that's sometimes a good thing. If everybody's sick, it's a bad thing, but it's family. It's family, and that's all I can say. I mean, this is a great business, but it's harder and harder to stay in this business. The margins are razor thin, except in the restaurant, where we make better in the restaurant than we do anything we sell in the store or any of the fuels we sell. So, but our volume is high enough. It's like the guy selling for 50 cents and buying for 50 cents. We got to sell more.
Now that is, if this is something comfortable you're answering, one of the things you hear a lot of times, and you hear different answers on this from people saying, with different companies saying, oh, we make almost no money on our diesel. Then another company, and sometimes it might be the same company, but they're talking to somebody else, oh, we make most of our money off of diesel. In your opinion, for the average truck stop, where does most of that profit come from? Is it companies gouging on diesel, or do they have other ways that they make their money?
Your major chains, and we're a Phillips 66, your minor chains, which are bigger chains, are like QT or Pilot, and some of those they buy rack prices, so they're getting a little bit better because they take all the responsibility, have all the equipment and all that. So they actually do, but then they turn around and give kickbacks and give rebates to your trucking companies. Sometimes there's been one that a bunch of people went to jail because they were lying about how much you were buying. But majority of it, they're actually giving it back to the companies and stuff. Now, the drivers don't see it, but the companies do. And again, it's only for the big guys. A little guy with 1 or 2 or 3 trucks very seldom gets much of any kind of rebate. But you make, if you've not got 2 or 3 people in your area trying to outdo you, you make and split probably a dime a gallon on average, and that's not bad, but a dime a gallon, 1 million gallons pays 2.5 cashiers.
I never even looked at it that way before.
Yeah.
And I think and I think sometimes when people complain about some of the prices, whether it's, and one of the ones that I know is classic for me to complain about is the gallons of water that a lot of truck stops sell for $2.50 to $3, when if you move away from the truck stop environment to some of the convenience stores or other stores, it's quite a bit cheaper. But on a lot of products, they're relatively comparable. There might be a little bit of a premium. There's just a few where the premium is like, really?
Ours is a little bit cheaper because we actually bottle our own water, and we tell on the label that it's a reverse osmosis. I have a reverse osmosis filter system, so we bottle our own water. But in the same respect, probably buys from Coca-Cola or one of the big water companies. They probably buy 500,000 gallons a year, so they actually get it cheaper than I do. But that's a big profit center for them because they're usually paying profit margin probably 50 to 60%. Well, that goes to pay salaries. That goes to repair potholes. That goes right back in. And your profit margins, I hear people fuss about we're so much higher on this or that or Coke. But we're not. We're actually cheaper on some Coke products and Pepsi products. Some things we are, candy bars and convenient snacks, we are a little higher than Walmart. We're higher than some places. But again, we've got to be to keep the doors open. So it's all relevant to how many hours. We did a study 15 years ago when we took third shift out. Every night it cost us $190 to have third shift open. So we were losing right at $200 a night. And not making enough profit to pay it. So we said, this is crazy. Why are we losing this? So we started closing at 11 and opening at 5. Now, we're seeing a trend of more, especially drivers, getting out earlier. So we're probably, as the summer gets closer, going to bump our opening up to being open somewhere around 4:30, and still remain closing at about 11. And by doing that, we'll catch more of that morning crowd that's on the way to work. And that's one of the trends that we've seen in the new place across the street from us. I've come up here, and Les has come up here at 4:30 in the morning, and you're seeing a fairly good stream coming in, getting fuel, and they're disappointed with their heated up, kneaded up Eddie Arnold sausages. And so I'm pretty sure that if we started doing that and put a little sign out there that says fresh made every morning, we'd pull a lot of those customers away from across the street and over here to get a tenderloin or a country ham or a sausage or a bacon or a croissant or a half-pound burrito. So they would start coming back to us. But you've got to look at the market. You've got to continuously talk to your drivers and talk to your as we call them, civilians that are doing drywall or doing painting and stuff like that, and see what they say that they need in the morning, because you're going to catch them on the way to work and on the way home. And so we have looked at things about the possibility of expanding so that we can add more things and not get another dollar store down the street. One of the biggest things that women ask us for is eggs. We already sell a little bit of bread and buns and things like that, but they said, can you get eggs and butter and we already got good milk? And I said, yeah, let me see about that. So we've tried that time or two, and eggs do good, especially when the weather is bad, because they can't get them at the grocery store.
Yep.
So,
well, and the other thing, too, is I know quite a few drivers that do basic cooking on their truck, and one of the staples that a lot of drivers do like to have is eggs, because they can cook them in the microwave or so many different ways. Or if you want to cook up something or have an egg sandwich or a boiled egg, they can do it.
Yep. And you're right. You can scramble eggs in a microwave that are just as good as scrambled on the skillet. So that is something. We see that. Packaged sandwich meats, Elm Hill meats and stuff like that, ham and salami and pickled loaf and bologna, and all of those are something that sells pretty good. The smaller sizes sell fair, the largest size sell a little bit bigger. So, again, listening to what our customers are telling us is what we're doing. I'll tell you a surprising snack that we sell a lot of, pecans.
I came in the other day, and I'll tell you what, I saw a bag of them. I looked at the prices, as that's not too bad. And I grabbed me a bag, and I'll tell you what, man, were they tasty.
Well, we get those locally through our Lions Club, which supports our Lions Club, and we make a little off it, and they make a little. And ours are actually $1.50 less than Walmart's. But my drivers will buy 4 or 5 bags, throw them in a big cup, set them in their cup holder, and that's a snack that's not fattening.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, when you eat, at least for me, I can't speak to everybody, but if I eat pecans, I have a handful or two, and I'm good for a while.
Yeah. One old guy says, I just munch on them between here and the next stop. And he said I can run as long as the gas or diesel holds out. So, and it's something they can snack on without carrying packages open and looking around and trying to find things.
And that is so true. And the one thing I liked about the one bag of pecans you have in there is kind of a resealable bag. So if you don't want them all open, you can use them for a bit and just zip it up. And that bag's one of the easiest open bags I've seen because of that little tab on there.
Yeah. And what they do is they take a big cup, stick it down in there in the cup, bag and all, and then open it up. They don't pour them out. They just stick the bag and all in a big cup. Now it's sitting there, sitting straight up, open.
Yeah, and see, for me, I just tend to reach in and grab a few out at a time of the bag, and the only reason why I do it that way, if I set that whole big bag into a cup, I'd eat an entire bag a day. So I'm like, if I have to make it a little bit of work just so I don't go completely ridiculous.
Hope you enjoyed this great episode with Tom Kirk interviewing Uncle Pete.
Hey, thanks for listening to TNCRadio.live's presentation of Keep On Talkin' with your host, Tom Kirk. For more information or to ask a question or to tell more about your story, send email to info@tncradio.live.